Underneath all of these, I do have more of a descriptor of these, some outlines about the audience, the why, strategies, deliverables, sub-goals underneath all of these. But in summary, the outline of the 7 goals of my department are to improve engagement with our community, boost employee morale and engagement, investigate why families have chosen schools other than ECS, update our district and school website, additional earned television, print, radio, media, assist human resources with recruitment tools, and lastly, streamline and improve our department processes so we can better serve people that we serve. Currently, out of those, we've got 2 sort of major projects we're working on. First one being updating our website. The last time it had a major update was 2014, so we are overdue. We usually say about every 4 to 5 years to give yourself a real good scrub and update to make sure everything there is current and good. Major driving forces behind that are really ADA compliance. In the last 2-3 years, it's become more and more important for websites to be ADA compliant. So that is something we want to make sure that we are addressing and not facing any legal issues with having a website that's not ADA compliant. We also want to do a better job of reaching our families who speak languages other than English. So we're looking for something with a more comprehensive translation feature, especially our Spanish-speaking families. That leads to the second thing we're currently working on in my department, and that would be outreach and relationship building with Spanish-speaking families and communities. We know that's an area where we are losing students, so we want to take a good look at that, understand the ways that we can better serve our Spanish-speaking families and the community, better inform them, offer them more services as a district in terms of more active care or programming for their students. So we have a meeting towards the end of the month with a leader, in the Spanish-speaking community in Elkhart. So she has reached out to some families and some other leaders, gotten ideas of ways that we can improve, things we've done before that have worked well, things that have not worked well. So we've got a team of about 12 of us who are going to meet with her and the parents that she's gathered and other leaders, figure out what we can do and how we can take that first step forward, making sure that we're serving our families better. Issues facing my department, like everyone else's district, it would be lack of staffing. We are currently highly task-oriented. We are responsive and we are reactive. When we talk about marketing, I do have a lot of high goals for better marketing ourselves. Marketing is a proactive move that takes time, it takes strategy, it takes building a plan, it takes, again, that input from the stakeholders. As it is right now, we don't have that type of time in my department. We're, like I said, highly task-oriented. As things need done, we're addressing those. So if a situation arises in a building and the principal needs a letter written to go home to families that day, it needs to be translated. If we have to have an all call, if we have to have that translated, if we have an email, we have that translated. The situation in the building can quickly become the bulk of my day. So those are things that we face. Again, very task-oriented, responsive, and reactive. So we would really like to be able to get in front of that, be able to better market, be able to reach some of these goals. Next up for us would be to bring somebody on board in my department who speaks Spanish, who has a great connection with the Latino family and community. We're working on that right now. I'm having somebody transition over to my department for that role. Additionally, it would be very beneficial for our department if we had an additional person who could write well, manage our social media, and be out there in the building finding positive things to cover. When I started here, that was sort of my role. goal. And I had that time to go out and find really cool things happening. And like I said, so responsive now that we really don't have that time to go out and find those positive stories. We try, we look into them sometimes. People contact us sometimes with their ideas, but we really need another person who can write and can go out and find those positive things to cover, so that we can really create more of a comprehensive communication and marketing. I really do have a strong desire to market our district better. I have ideas. As I said, I've got those 7 department goals, and I've started breaking those down to about 15 pages so far. I'd be happy to share that with you guys if you want to see it. I would say it's in draft format, again, because I want to really develop the plan with our stakeholders. I want to get more involvement in that other than just my department sort of creating our ideas. So those are the big things I wanted to share with you guys today. I'm happy to try to answer any questions you have about my department and what we do.
I've got a couple. Have you engaged any of the students to assist with some of the functionality of your department, like improving the our web platform, maybe help market the school, maybe from a project basis? Have you turned to them to see if there's any assistance there to help out with that scope?
So we have had student interns in our department before. It's worked out well. We do run into the transportation issues that I'm sure you've heard with other student interns in terms of there's something really cool happening at Bristol, but our student intern doesn't have a car. Right now, it's easy for them to sort of walk over here and do some of those writing pieces, and that's important. I think that's a great way to give students experience and voice, to really represent sort of their body, their voice in the story. So it's something that some districts do. I would love to have even like an Instagram takeover or TikTok takeover, something like that, where you've got a student sort of telling their story through their eyes.
Sure.
Yeah, that's definitely, I definitely want to involve students. I would love to have sort of a student ambassador program. I know some of our schools do, or some of our programs do, but I would love to building if we have 3 to 5 students, or every school study 3 to 5 students who is very well versed in what's happening at the school, what their goals and missions are, that if a visitor comes, that person or those students can really lead them on that tour, lead them on those engagements. And then, if we have those students available, some of these service groups that have lunches during the day, and I know we do some, take students to some of those, but really give those students a strong voice out in the community, even not just within my realm, but really out in the community. Yeah, I think there's a lot of room for student involvement.
I think so too. Also, in anticipation of your presentation tonight, we, as a board, were just down at the Indiana School Board Association Fall Conference. And down there, we had an opportunity to meet several vendors on very different industry disciplines to assist schools. And one of the things that actually brought to my attention was a company called Advertised. And they actually had this already made for us, and it's an app, and it's a web-based platform that helps a school broaden their marketing and communication scope and ability. And so I grabbed this and grabbed a card and said I would pass it along. So I think this is something that, it seems definitely appropriate to maybe give you additional resources.
Yeah.
And they have an app, and it's easy to use, and a lot of the things you talked about, it has that type of scope. So I will leave this for you, and if you want to reach out to them and just look into it and let us know.
Yep. Actually does a really great job with school marketing. They've been in the marketplace for a couple of years now. They actually sent out a great magazine, and it looks like you're reading a magazine, and it's sort of meant to engage school leaders on, hey, here's some things that you could be doing. Ultimately, it's kind of built it, but it does have really good ideas. Their website has great ideas,
right.
Good blog posts. Yeah, they're a great resource, a great tool. their product is kind of expensive. If you do get into the market for something like that, they're a little on the expensive side.
Sure.
But they, like I said, their website has great resources. Yeah, it's a website that I have bookmarked.
Okay,
I'm
good.
constantly out there, like, looking for ideas. Again, it's a lot of time is what it
Sure.
comes down to. It's
Sure.
that proactive getting out there and that sort of thing. I just, when it comes down to it, I don't want to have graphics out there that are different or not, cohesive.
You don't want to lose control. I
You
get
don't
it.
want to lose control. So, with time, with planning, I would love more comprehensive, where we can definitely integrate the things that they
Sure.
are offering.
So are we limited on, like, by personnel, like, so if you had 2 more people, you could market well, what number? Like, if you had a person dedicated to maybe writing and handling, student ambassadors or something, because that's time consuming. That would be difficult to split yourself one more way.
Right.
Because there's only so many hours in the day. So I guess what we need to know is, what do you actually need? And then, do we have any wiggle room anywhere for budgeting something more into that? And that's what I don't know.
No, we've looked at it, and we've had the conversation about those 2 people, one making a shift potentially from another department over to help, and then one to help with the writing and the outreach and the things that they can't quite get to.
Yeah, that's, like Dr. Palmer said, I think if we added 2 more, that would be a real sweet number for us. Again, shifting over somebody who's already with the district or into a more proactive communication role. And then somebody who can sort of backfill the tasks that I'm doing. Because, when I look at some of these goals of, improving engagement with our community and investigating why families can show the school does an ECS, that stuff excites me. But it is not task-oriented work. It is not, completing a spreadsheet. It is really taking hold of a big project and ownership of that. So if we had somebody who could do more of the task things that I'm doing right now, I would love to be able to tackle some of these. And I think these are important issues for the district. I think it's a worthwhile investment to really do some due diligence on these issues.
Are the yearbook staff, are those kids who are already looking for events and good things and pictures, would they be a resource, or are they too busy trying to just do that piece?
That may be able to help me answer that.
Hi,
Me too. We do work together.
yes, we do work together, and, my kids, I have a gigantic staff, but they're learning how to yearbook.
Sure.
We are happy to feed things to you, if we're told what you're looking for. I am running the school study page for arts and communications, and what we have done is we partnered with our news magazine staff, and they're feeding us things, so it would kind of be like a reverse process, so we could do it, we just need to know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you're already like there, boots on the ground, doing it, and from the kids' perspective, which I love that. I loved going over to the open house the other day and just hearing from the kids who are so excited about what we're doing in Elk Park. Oh my gosh, they just blossomed like flowers right in front of us, telling us what they're doing over there. And then I also wanted to compliment you on the pieces that we received for the community and the QR codes that we could tap into. And that took a lot of work and organization, and I just wanted to say thank you, because that helped to make that event over there a good success, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was really pleased with that event. I was happy to see so many community members come out and anybody who walked through that building, the group that I gave a tour to, oh gosh, why didn't we do this before the referendum? Because if you had people in here, you had people walking through here. I mean, construction timing, it may not have been right at the time, but that's something that I have under my goal of improving engagement with the community, is to sort of open our buildings up, to have a day or two where people can come in and really see what we're about, and take a real good tour and understand what's happening at our school.
there was a lot of excitement, and you did a great job on your, marketing pieces over there. Yeah, really nice.
I want to thank you and the team that you worked with for the ETI open house last Monday. That was very, very impressive, and also there was a numerous student involvement, student ambassadors, and stuff like that, and a good swath of you know, cross section of people from all different walks of life, you know, that came out there. So, you know, good job. Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of credit goes to our, our high school staff. There are a lot of them in this room, and they are doing outstanding work. And they were there after hours telling that story, and credit to them for being boots on the ground telling that story. I love my job being able to share that story a little more broadly and more widely. But yeah, students there were incredible. So lots of credit to the school city principals, to the teachers. It all came together. It was very fun. Thank you.
I was told on multiple occasions that I wasn't a good tour group member.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, Tony G was leading your tour, so.
I don't know about you. Yeah.
Wow. So besides more hours in a day, more staff, maybe more, what else do you need? Do you need more, like, equipment to do this better, or what?
Those are the big two. Time people, we've got a pretty good, system with our equipment right now. We've worked a lot with tech services, great guys here who do this, live feed for us. We work a lot with them in terms of technology standpoint.
Yeah.
They know cameras, they know a lot about a lot. So, we work with them quite a bit. But yeah, main resources that I would say that we are missing are people staffing.
Would they be able to help us make some videos? That would be, yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's really a coordination thing between them? Okay. Good. So is there, I know you've like written out your draft. Does that include what you need in staff and kind of what the money part would be?
Yes.
Because I think we would love to see the whole, thing written out and all of your, just do it like that big audacious goal thing.
Yeah.
Like if money were no object, write it all out and then we'll figure out what we can actually do. Or maybe find community partners, try to, resource it some way.
Yeah. I've not put numbers together for all of it, but I will do that as part of the draft so that you guys can sort of see. It's one of those things where if you've not done it before, you have no idea how much it costs to send a mailing to every mailbox in Elkhart, or how much it would cost to run 6 billboards at once versus 1 billboard at once. There's variables that go into some of that stuff. So yeah, I'd be happy to put numbers together for you so you can see what this is
I know that's more work, so I don't know.
But I like how you have it pretty much dialed in on what your needs are. You know that if you hand it to us, we'll have your back. So that's what the most important thing is that we trust you to do what you need to do, and we'll follow your lead.
I appreciate that. I am just personally so passionate about who we are, what we do as a district. I want to tell our story. I want to get it out there more and more and more.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget the hype up your thought exchange.
Oh, yes. I mentioned thank you.
You're welcome.
I mentioned that we're we're in the very early phases of updating our website. So what that means for me on this part of it is that I'm working on sitemap and collecting collateral in terms of photos and copy. Right now, we are also running a thought exchange for staff, students, community members to weigh in on what they like, what they don't like about the website, what they want to see. So we've actually had pretty good feedback on that so far in terms of participation. Primary things that I'm seeing that people would like to see are calendars, a better calendar. They want to know exactly what's going on in every building. So something like that takes really a district-wide effort in terms of making sure the secretaries are on board, the athletic secretaries are on board, everybody's on board and feeding the same calendar so that it can output.
Does that include like menus too in each building and everything?
yeah, there are ways to do these things, so.
Brings that mad skill.
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, we just don't have enough time in the day.
Yes, I know,
Yeah.
I know.
Right.
You need to have a life.
Brenda? Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
keep it on, we're gonna be behind you.
I appreciate that.
Second topic is, conversation regarding the Aquatic Center, and we had conversations with the Aquatic Center in August of 20. And so as part of those conversations, Mr. Weaver and myself from the district, and then Pete McCown from the Community Foundation, and members of Elkhart Health Aquatics Board, and representative from Beacon Health were there, and we took a tour through the facility. And as we were outside, they shared with us on the front of the building for there to be some signage for Elkhart Community Schools, that something could be used as an identifier over on that right side of the building, over in that area where that pink box is. And they wanted to maintain the cleanliness on the front of the building, not have too many additional colors or anything, too many logos so that it appears cluttered or confusing for what door to go in, and knowing where things are and that kind of thing. They just didn't want it to be too distracting. So that was one of the points they made as we had that meeting. Then the second piece was to look at potential placement of the school's mascot or logo in the pool area itself, to identify that that is the home pool for Elkhart Community Schools and the Lions, but to not overpower the space with heavy graphics, and to keep some clear space around and not interfere with the graphics and theme they have around the scoreboard and those kind of things. So those could be potential spaces that were discussed at the time. And then the third thing is that as patrons come up the steps or up the elevator to the spectator area on the second floor, there would be the way to have a plaque or a placard of some kind that would acknowledge the Elkhart Community Schools as being a contributor, the board members, the taxpayers for the community, recognize on that wall that everyone would see as they go to enter the spectator area, to show gratitude and recognition in a tasteful and appropriate manner. So we had toured the building, had those conversations about that potential signage, and then Elkhart Aquatics came back and so what they were suggesting was similar to, as you go over to the other side of the building to where OSMC is, they were looking at something similar in scale to where Elkhart Community Schools could be there, or Elkhart Community Schools could have our logo and our name sort of here under the Aquatics and Commons area. Then roughly looking at doing like the Lionhead mascot around the pool area, and then again the placard, and then Brenda, who we've talked about her skills, went in and was looking at these kind of plaques that are used for recognition in different places. So kind of using the lower left one on the slide there as an inspiration, she kind of mocked up a couple here recognizing the contributions, honoring the students, dance, and families, taxpayers, and listing board members who helped contribute to make that happen. So she had provided some different mock-ups of what those could look like. So various styles for what those could be, looking in different ways.
So they said yes to all that.
So what they have said is, what their proposal to us is that we could work on finding signage of approximately, that size, or the logo and signage of approximately this size that could go here under the Aquatics and Commons area, using the space to the right of the scoreboard for a placement of a graphic of our logo and EHS, and then a sign or a placard of the kind that we've shown there. And it was in our hands to kind of decide what it is that we would like to do and where we would want to go with that. And we had received kind of information back from,
Hey, Doctor, can you blow that up? Please.
So they had gotten back to us, I believe it was we had talked about this in August. They got back to us in November or so, around that time, maybe December even, with these back to us. And then we came back after Christmas, and then we were starting to experience the things relative to COVID. So we didn't do anything additional with it at that point because we were not sure what all that meant.
So I assume it's on our dime, or do we share cost, or how does that work?
The conversations were that this signage would be on us.
Okay. I like that big old lion over there.
Yeah, and there's to be determined.
What size plaque were they proposing, or was proposed by the elevator?
Tony, was we discussed that placard by there, were we looking, was that 4 by 6? Do you recall? Maybe.
Like the one we did for, probably that one.
That one, those plaques
So we don't have an estimate at all?
We don't have we needed, again, for the board to make a determination of which direction to kind of go, maybe which of these were kind of the right track for what the board would like us to explore, and then we could start looking at what that would be.
I would say that
I like them all.
I would say that the size of the plaque should resemble something that's right outside this door here as far as size. If you would back up to the exterior photos, that one right there is a good example. It's been my experience, this is Elkhart Community Schools brought $6 million to this project, and by joining the project, they brought another $9 million to the table through state funding because we were the government participant in that endeavor. So that's a $15 million portion of that. Now, what I struggle with is, and it's not shown up here, if you go to the other end of the building, Elkhart General's got their name in big blazing letters across that, which are much bigger than the Aquatic Center in that one right there. I don't know if you can see it all the way in the back there, but it's sizable. And so my point being was that what's proposed is a very minimalist approach, and it doesn't recognize the contribution that the taxpayers of this community put into that building. All right, and you know, me personally, what I would like to see is a big blue tiger right at the entrance that growls when you walk by it. You know, so we're kind of a distance apart on what we think. But what did I say, tiger? Sorry about that. A lion.
Tiger, panther, lion.
Some large cat.
Yeah, it's a large cat would work, yes.
Well,
So, anyhow, and I do sit on the board of that Elkhart Health and Aquatic Center. And so, you know, I've stated my opinion on several occasions and stuff like that, and each time it comes back as a minimalist approach, which I am not well pleased with
but
at this time.
you want it to balance. Like, you don't want the building to be off kilter. You still want, like, the signage to balance so that when it's visually seen by the street, you know, it doesn't look like gaudy, I mean, you
No,
still
I
want a
wasn't
damn balance.
proposing anything gaudy whatsoever, but, I mean, look at that thing right there. You've been pushed all the way off to the end of the building.
But that's.
That's where they enter.
But that's.
No, well, okay, no, the entrance is way over here.
No, the entrance is right there, but they park, like, they
But-
park on the side of the building in
Right.
that parking lot, and they come in there.
But you've got that whole square brick area to work off of right there, but no, you get this little corner piece over here.
Well, that's why
Okay.
I would request both of those spots.
And then also, the other thing, if you looked, I don't know if you can see it up
The
there,
lion and the
OSMC, who put no money into that project, has signage right down there, no issue, no problem. You know, they got their name on the building. And our signage, from what I can tell, height-wise, would not be any bigger than their signage. So, I don't know, that's just me personally, all right? I think we can do better.
I would agree. I like both options on the exterior. Elkhart Community Schools, can you go to that one, Steve? Oh, sorry. Yep, so that, I would propose keeping that and, and that, both of them, yes. And then the plaque, and then the logo inside the pool area.
Mhm,
Love the logo on the pool area.
Yep.
mhm.
And then let them explain 15 million reasons to say no.
There you go.
That's what I suggest.
Mhm.
Is that what you were saying, Dr.
Yes,
Tomheimer, that we get all four, or we have to choose one?
They were indicating that these were alternatives. This would be the alternative to this.
I would request both. You want both, the logo and the placard and.
Yeah.
I don't see how that is gonna throw anything off. I mean, you know,
It's uniform.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
I mean, we could also ask for a line to be placed on top of the round.
Or just give them something that we wanna know, right? Let them say no and then
Right.
like, okay, right?
Yeah, the art of
How about-
negotiation.
Great.
I mean, Rocky, why not just have a, like a big, huge, like, statue up there at the top?
Well, we're gonna put a statue of Doug in there somewhere. I mean, you
Well,
know.
I mean, I think he's going to just be there.
So
Okay.
in a few moments here, is there a direction regarding, like, one of these designs, that we should?
Can you, forward that, to the board? Because
Yeah, I
from
can do it
here,
again, yeah.
I am not able to read that.
Your name's right here.
I think my preference from the signage would be
Hold on.
that we are consistent with what is already being used in the building. And I think it was number 2 that Brenda had mocked up that had just the crest. I would propose, the second one. I like that. It's consistent with what the building is already using, which I think that's important to keep that consistency. I like the idea of the crest instead of the E and the lion, because it encompasses everything and it's not quite as busy. And I just think it looks nicer. So from a signage standpoint on the inside of the building, my preference would be to go with variation number 2.
Well, plus it's on their graduation gown and their diploma.
All right.
So are these, this is just.
This is an actual
That's
sample
not-
of the, Brenda had come across and then was using that as kind of the inspiration for.
Is number 2 the only one with the crest, or is it another one that has? So I do agree with Ann that for consistency, the crest will be better.
Hey, Rocky, can you read at, version number 2 there that, Doctor had up? Or maybe you're too close.
No,
There we
in
go.
honor of our students, alumni, families, community, and taxpayers, Elkhart Community Schools proudly partners with Beacon Health Systems and Community Foundation of Elkhart County in development of the Elkhart Aquatic Center a landmark facility in our outstanding hometown of Elkhart, Indiana. Elkhart Community School Board of Trustees, February 2017, and some meaningless names.
Okay, the other thing that should be up there is, one, the superintendent's name as well as the architect should be on those placards for design.
Was the architect hired by us or was the architect hired by Beacon? Because if it wasn't hired by us, then it doesn't need to be on our sign.
Well,
It wasn't by us.
But I do think it's a good idea to ask people.
Right.
Is the board fine with
Number two.
consensus and suggestion of that one?
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Then we can start looking at that and potentially finding out costs on something like that.
And I think we ought to go with Troy's suggestion and go back and say we want the two on the front.
So
And the
all
lion
four
in
options.
the lion in the pool, yeah.
All right, that's the direction I needed, so that's all I have.
Okay. We will reconvene at 7 o'clock.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so much more cooperative. Hey, you're clear, like, I'm just trying to time it perfectly so we can see your house.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Hi, Doug. You're welcome.
Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Elkhart Promise. Every student is known by name, challenged and supported by highly effective staff, and in partnership with the community, will graduate career, college ready, and life ready.
Thank you. At the end of the meeting, there'll be an opportunity for the public to address the school board. You turn in a sheet to Ms. Ock. We will call you up. You are to come to the podium, state your name, your address, and your relationship to the school system. Now, we will respect you. We respect your right to, your God-given right as an American to your freedom of speech. But there will be no personal attacks on the board or anybody else in the room. There will be no name calling or any other such thing. If there is, you will forfeit your time to speak, and that will be the end of it. Mr. Anderson and Mr. Giannisi.
Good evening, I'm Terry Anderson.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Executive Principal of Elkhart High School. My pleasure to be with you tonight to share some wins, just to share some really cool stuff that's happening at Elkhart High School, at our schools of study, the freshman division, and then some events that we've held recently, as of last week. So first and foremost, last Monday, feels like it's almost been a month already from this, but last Monday, we hosted a very successful community open house. We were able to have the ability, the time last Monday, to bring our community. This event wasn't so much for the students and the parents. We've had that before. This is for the other community members and our donors, especially for the Engineering, Technology, Innovation Building, to see our community investment, what we've done over all these years to prepare for the schools of study, to prepare the Elkhart Area Career Center for our new way of teaching and learning. So it was a fantastic night. We had lots of former board members, current board members, community members, and then many of the donors and their foundation representatives with us. So the tour of the facility. So that was a wonderful, wonderful night. We also then, last Tuesday, just a week ago, hosted an extremely successful college fair. What's kind of cool about that is typically only one side of town over the years has been able to do this due to just the timing for the college rep. And so we had over 1,600 kids go through our college fair. It was in the glass box at ECI to go through. We had 46 colleges attend, and it was good for the heart. I sent that in email to my staff to talk to the kids who were very engaged. The college reps stated time and time again the questions, the quality of our kids that came to their booths to ask about their college and career choices. So it was a fantastic event. Schools of study, arts and communication, music department. They might be going to state, by the way, in the Scholastic division, but I'm not going to mention that. It's very exciting. They've been able to add 2 new class offerings. I went to them and said, what are we doing that's new? In our new structure for all the schools of study in the freshman division. Electronic music, new class. They're enjoying their brand new lab. The students are creating their own computer-generated music, brand new. Music in motion is allowing intense intervention students to use their creativity, learning music with a peer mentor. And then we have a new club in the music department, United Sound, being implemented. places another peer mentor with an intense intervention student to learn how to play a musical instrument. It's a very, very cool program. The School of Business and International Relations, partnering, of course, with Lake City Bank to officially open the 51st branch within our high school. Very cool, very awesome experience. We have 3 students involved with that. We had a really cool, Lake City Bank did a very nice ribbon cutting event. So we had lots of community partners, and of course, Lake City Bank representatives here for that. ECI, we have the creation of our student ambassadors for ECI. They attend events, develop promotional materials, write articles for the school newspaper, and meet with community partners. And of course, they will also then in turn visit the freshman division in hopes of getting the interested students to sign up for the school ECI when they sign up for the classes for next year. Health and Public Safety, brand new class. It's able to offer physical science credit with forensic science. We've never had this class before. We have over 70 kids enrolled in forensic science. It encompasses chemistry, problem solving, and critical thinking skills. Students will take part in a variety of inquiry-based labs, as well as learn basic scientific methods, models, and concepts streaming from the criminal justice system. Of course, Health and Public Safety is right next to the Career Center programs that are attached to that. It's a very cool partnership. Human Services. The School of Human Services is excited to have the Family and Consumer Science Club, FCCLA. This club will help students develop leadership skills in fashion, cooking, and child development. I know just in a week or two, we're having our preschool back. We've had to, of course, put that on pause the last couple of years. We're very excited to have the preschool kids, and our kids are going to be working with them. That FCCLA club will focus on growing relationships with our Career Center counterparts. And then, of course, there are also going to be student ambassadors as we create that program in all of our schools of study. Natural resources, they are in the midst of resurrecting some astronomy apparatus. It's like kind of on a roof, the old Elk Park Memorial Building, and they're turning it into a real-time meteorological data center. Really cool. Makes sense for natural resources. And last, and definitely not least, the freshman division. They have been working with their student ambassadors to assist the intense intervention students in their adaptive PE classes. They're leading announcements. They're giving tours to new students. Again, this is something that freshman students were never involved in before, because it was always upper class. We're glad to have that opportunity to build student leaders within the freshman division. They're lunch buddies. We have students signing up and starting clubs like weightlifting. They have their own SCCLA club, chess, move to stand, and women's rights. In the impact class, students are learning about pride and making it applicable to the freshman year, like persistence and retaining study skills, career interests, and this week's responsibility, and that's how they can improve and apply those to their daily activities. Lots of great things happening at Elkhart High School, and I'm here to be the cheerleader for that. And it's not hard. It's just people to see. We have great kids and great staff working so hard to make Elkhart High School a success as it is. So I wanted to share that today. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we look forward to the next board meeting to continue the schedule.
Thanks to your staff. Please pass along our thanks, because without them working so hard to make all the pieces fit together and, help making our students, lifting them up, we wouldn't have this happening. So thank them for us, and we'll do our best to thank them when we see them.
Thank you.
Good evening. So recently, the Michiana Area Construction Industry Advancement Fund, otherwise known as MATAP to most of us, I had to read it right off the plaque because I could never read it, presented their 2020 Excellence in Construction Award. The categories, and we have 2 that we were selected to receive awards in, are both for the Engineering, Technology, and Innovation Building. The first one is in the category of sheet metal. We, of course, are the owner. The architect was Alliance Architects out of South Bend, and the contractors there are sheet metal. And they won the award, and it's really hard for everybody to see. But in the new Engineering, Technology, and Innovation Building, we've created a new welding lab that replaced a very old, antiquated lab. And so they actually won the award with a very intricate exhaust system for all of the welding. So I'm sorry I can't show this for everybody to see it. But that is our first award, and this will hang proudly in the ETI building. And the second award is for the overall building construction. And I'm sure if you've driven over this way and seen the building, you know, where it sits in between the Career Center and the main building. So this was also presented to Brown and Brown, general contractors as the contractor of record. Architect is Alliance Architects again, of course, we're the owner. And this is in the category of building. And this is pretty special because these awards have been given out for 28 years. It's highly competitive among the local contractors. And when they get these, they're pretty proud, and they always present us with our own plaque. So tonight, I'd like to share these with you and let you know that hopefully next time you're at ETI, you'll see these hanging in the main lobby.
That's some great stuff. We now have the consent items.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion by the board?
One, gift acceptance to Woodland in the amount of a $10,000 check for purchasing playground equipment from Elaine Marone. Am I saying that right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So thank you so much. And I'm sure Woodland is ecstatic. Bless your heart.
Very generous gift. Oh, okay.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Kelly Mullen.
Aye.
Babette Bowling. Aye. Ann Vondervillen.
Aye.
Doug Weaver.
Aye.
Troy Scott.
Aye.
Jason Davis. Aye. Rocky Enfield.
Aye. Old business. Dr. Tallheimer?
Just to update you, in front of you are numbers of our COVID cases over the last couple of weeks. You can see that our students, positive cases have settled in there in the lower 30s. Staff positive cases are a little over 10. So we're in the low 40s with our number of positive cases. We did have a little uptick the week of the 4th in our close contacts. So over that 2-week period, about 213 students identified as close contacts. With the governor extending his emergency order through October, the executive order is asking that we abide by the State Department of Health guidelines. If you are a masked facility, then the close contacts and their need to be removed from school or to isolate away from school is still reduced to that 3-foot area. So by us having our masks on, that reduces our classification of close contacts. Excuse me, and allows those close contacts to continue to be able to come to school. So that is where our numbers are at the moment. So far this week, I put in the box over there at the side, 17 positive cases the first couple days this week and 27 close contacts.
Okay.
And our second item, Mr. Bond.
Tony Giannici for innovation.
No, this is still related to COVID. Okay.
During the work session, almost 2 weeks ago now, received some direction from the board to develop some exemptions to the face mask policy. And we are suggesting at this point in time, we're really seeking guidance from the board as to how they want to manage this to 3 exemptions. One is already in place, and that's an exemption for special education students. And Tony England is here to answer any questions that you might have related to that. The other 2 would be a medical exemption. And our suggestion would be that those exemptions would include supporting documentation from the student's physician. That information would be directed to the Student Services Department, where it would be reviewed basically in advance of granting those exemptions. And the other exemption would be a religious exemption. That document would also be presented to the Student Services Department, where it would be reviewed from that standpoint. This evening, I have given the board members some sample exemption request forms from around the country. They vary greatly in terms of what they require of individuals. There are some of them that I would describe as being a little bit onerous in terms of the expectation, for example, that the parent would have to have the document signed by in the presence of a notary public. That seems to me to be an awful lot to ask the parents and an additional expenditure for parents to do from that standpoint. So we're looking for a little bit of guidance from the board so that we can develop a form that meets your expectations in terms of how to handle those particular issues. The last question that comes to play is how do we help our staff members
to understand that a particular individual student might have an exemption. Do we identify that on the student ID in terms of a dot or something like that? Again, we're looking for some direction from the board as to how you would like to have us manage this moving forward. I think a couple of benefits here. Number one, certainly in terms of having documentation, will eliminate my ability to forget what I might have done in terms of granting or denying a particular exemption. As you know, the tests have a lousy memory. The other is just to make sure that we have a clear process for doing this that is understood by parents and expected by parents as to how to handle that, as long as we are operating under the governor's executive order in terms of the limited area of close contact related to the mask. So at this point in time, we're really seeking some direction from you. Tony is here, as well as Rita, to answer any questions you might have about the process that we're proposing.
Thank you, for bringing this out. Was this particular thing on the agenda tonight?
It is under the COVID update.
It's under the, okay.
We are not asking for official action tonight. We're looking for guidance from you all.
Yeah.
So that what we come back with,
right,
meets the expectations of the school board.
Can we bring this back into a separate work session, like on a Wednesday morning, a Thursday morning, or whatever like that, so we can go through this? Because there's I haven't seen this before, so.
Yeah, that's why we're just seeking.
Right.
If that's how the board wants to handle this,
That would be my recommendation.
that's up to you all as to whether or not you want to schedule a work session on that particular issue. I mean, to some extent, Mr. Weaver, if we got direction from the board this evening, I don't think it requires official board action to adopt that. I think if you gave us the authority to move forward, we could put it in place more quickly rather than wait for another work session. But that's, again, that's up to you all. We work for you.
I would like to hear from Tony and Sarita if they have any input or information that will help us as far as guidance with this or what they experience.
With special education, I probably should speak up like this.
Sure.
With special education, it's much easier because there's a long history of data and data collection and information from children, physicians, or other professionals that have been working with them that help the student be identified as a student with special needs. And then that process, as you saw in the policy, I think when you looked last week, really goes back to looking at what is in the IEP process, reviewing that information, and then deciding whether an exemption really is needed because of the student's special education needs. We have very few special education students that have requested an exemption, except in our intense classrooms, and those are students with severe or moderate cognitive disabilities or students with such severe autism needs that they need additional support. So in those classrooms, what we do is we assist students with video self-monitoring to help them see wearing the mask. We do social storytelling. We practice using the masks in different locations to assist the students. We have one student that has pretty serious sensory issues, and we work individually with that student. The goal really is still to help the students mask as much as we can, or then use social distancing, use the instructional methodology that's appropriate for the student. So with special ed, the documentation is just a little bit different. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I'm saying that. And so it's been, for us, most of the students that we have that have pretty serious medical conditions in that IEP process, we already have a lot of documentation. And so working with parents to talk about that, because we have that.
So our challenge is really going to be with the religious exemptions, not so much medical exemptions, because we have, we will have a physician recommendation, the respiratory, things like that. So that may not be as difficult. We're trying to find the language for a religion, and that's where we will have to work with the community, because we really have to come up with a collective thought process of what religious exemptions mean. We tried to look it up biblically, and fortunately we found in Leviticus that it says mask and separate, so we're like, okay, let's get everybody in on this. So that's where we are with the religious exemption part of it. We don't see a problem with the medical because it's going to be, from a doctor. It's not going to really be a problem. Also, we are, because it's extended through October the end of October with the governor's office. The message that we're getting from the health department is that they're watching two things, vaccination rates and infection rates. And that could affect us at any day on what we're gonna do with them. So, that's why it really is a community effort, as opposed to you make decisions, you make decisions. It really is, everybody will be involved in this. And that's what we have so far.
So,
What's the process then, or who are gonna partner with you to come up with the religious language, or how that would be structured?
What my suggestion would be that we just have some indication by the parent on the document, by the student on the document, that they have a sincerely held religious belief. Now, there are other districts around the country who require supporting evidence from the priest, from the minister. I think, again, I don't want to make this so onerous that it becomes a great challenge to do on the part of the parent or on the part of the student. Nor do I want to be in a situation where an administrator has to make the determination. Mr. Weaver, I'm going to use you as an example. Does Mr. Weaver really have a sincerely held religious belief? I think that's going much too far for us from that standpoint. And I think, quite honestly, could create some legal jeopardy from our standpoint in terms of making an inquiry of that nature. But it's also, how do we balance this whole question in terms of knowing which student has an exemption, which student does not?
The answer is I do.
And I'm not gonna challenge that.
My
Or ask your
recommendation,
minister.
my recommendation would be definitely to make it in the least onerous manner possible. All right. And a lot of the laws that we have in this country deal towards the least restrictive side of whatever's going on out there. This should follow that model.
My only desire would be to make sure, at least hope, that if people are asking for religious exemption, that they're making an honest inquiry for religious exemption and not just doing it because it's an easy way out. So I think it's finding that right balance, that's all.
But we need to be careful in judging people in that.
Absolutely, and that's what I want to avoid.
Right,
So I
you know,
think-
because we are in a fine balance, especially in the state where we allow exemptions for vaccines already. We allow exemptions for very many other areas. We are in a district right now where many of the other schools are not practicing this whatsoever. And so we need to begin to move in the direction of respecting what all is looking for and not just one voice.
And I think our goal is to find the right balance. And to get guidance from you all as to what that right balance is.
Well, and are you asking for that for this evening?
I mean, Mr. Weaver's suggesting we have another work session on this issue. That's your call.
I agree. I think we do. I mean, you just handed us
Right.
4 or 5 examples that they all have some variance
Right.
to it that we haven't had time to read or even educate ourselves in order to give you the correct guidance.
I'm
So-
perfectly happy with the idea of a work session on this topic.
Okay.
If that's what the board wants to do, then I just, it's a matter of you all finding a time, and of course, we have to do proper notification and all those types of things. But we're pretty good at figuring that out. That's all I have as it relates to this topic, so.
If we decide on a work session, I'd like to make sure that we have, like, Tony and, Sarita there because of the, you know, the knowledge base that they have. So I'm hoping that we can figure out a way to make it so you guys could also attend. That might be a little bit more difficult, but.
And
We kind of work at the pleasure of the board, so if you want us there, we're gonna be there.
I also
Definitely.
think probably legally, we probably need your input as well, just to make sure we're not, like, doing something that would put us in jeopardy of some sort.
I'm happy to do that.
Thank you.
All right, that's all I have.
Good evening again. United Business Office requests approval to undertake the Hawthorne Elementary School renovation project.
So moved.
Any board discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Gianese, what would that all entail, your brief statement there? What How far does that actually go?
We'll go as little or as far as we wish it to go as a group. However, I would recommend, based on my experience, that we begin by looking at the 2014 20-year facility maintenance plan, reviewing what is included in that plan, looking at what the current needs are now that it's 7 years later, and discussing any other topics that come up related to the building.
And by
And then
beginning.
once we determine what direction from there, then we can determine if we proceed with an architect for design, or if we proceed with an architect for a feasibility study to look at what we can do.
And knowing that this is an area, that the board, obviously by delaying it, in my conversations with you, I mean, board members, up to 3 of you would be part of some of those conversations, so that you're in on what's happening and okay before we would bring any action to you regarding any additional expense related to investigating the building or doing anything.
Will you be able to bring back to us 2 or 3 options?
I'm sure we could bring more than 2 or 3 options, but I would recommend no more than 3.
I didn't want to overburden you too much there. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Motion.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you have to read.
Yes. Kelly Mullen,
Aye.
Babette Bowen,
Aye.
Ann Vondermellen,
Aye.
Doug Weaver,
Aye.
Roy Scott,
Aye.
Stacy Davis, Rocky Enfield.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Thorne?
Sorry. The way from the roof for a second. Okay. This evening, the administration is presenting proposed recommended modification, to
Doug.
the,
Can you pull your mic up? Yeah.
yes, I can. Is that better?
Yes.
You're welcome. A proposed revision to the compensation plan for paraprofessionals. Presently, paraprofessionals in a number of our buildings are being called upon to serve as a substitute when the regular teacher is absent. Since the standards we've established as a school corporation for our paraprofessionals exceed the requirements established by the Department of Education to be employed as a substitute teacher, we believe, and certainly they've demonstrated, that they have the capability to serve in this capacity. And as such, we are requesting authority to pay a differential of $3 an hour when our paraprofessionals are serving that capacity, in other words, serving as a substitute teacher, for either 1/2 of a day or the full day. Now, we also have some paraprofessionals, especially in the area of libraries, in terms of the library media paraprofessionals at the elementary schools, and the technology instruction paraprofessionals at our elementary schools, who also have instructional assignments during the day. They have, like our teachers, a preparation period. And so we'd be proposing to treat them in a similar fashion as our teachers. So we are proposing that this evening in terms of our paraprofessional compensation plan, and asking you to waive second reading and approve that this evening.
Move to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion from the board?
I have a question.
Yes.
This would just add to the hourly wage, it wouldn't take them into any overtime.
No, it would not take them to, this is a great question. The question was, would it take them to overtime? Okay, you have a microphone too, so we should discuss. But the question is, no, this would not take them into overtime, but it would provide them with that additional pay to recognize the fact that they're actually stepping in and filling the shoes of the teacher. Under the current practice, what a paraprofessional does, is we've had a number of paraprofessionals who do this. They actually get, it's gonna sound strange, but unpaid as a paraprofessional and then paid as a substitute teacher for that time period. When we do that, the paraprofessional loses that contribution that the school district makes to the public employee retirement fund. And we would make a contribution to the teacher's retirement fund, but it will probably never be enough because the paraprofessional would benefit from that. So this also benefits the paraprofessional, the fact that all of their compensation, including those days, would be matched in terms of the employer contribution to their retirement fund.
How are you gonna keep track of that if they're splitting the time during the day?
Actually, we do it the same way we do that right now with teachers that have track out in the building, and then that information just be transmitted to payroll, and payroll would be able to process that. Payroll is involved in the process of developing it, so they're very familiar with doing this. We do this right now for our teachers when they're covering during a prep period and those types of things. It's really just mirroring that process that presently exists for teachers.
So it's electronic tracking and not paper.
I wish I could say it's all electronic tracking, but some of it is in fact still paper. The cost of moving our entire payroll system to I hate to say this, a non-DOS based system is pretty significant. And so we have elected to live along with our current payroll and personnel system rather than spend upwards of $1 million to update.
If they don't sub, how does this benefit them?
Well, if they don't sub, I think then we're still looking towards what will happen during our discussions with paraprofessionals. It would not impact them adversely if they choose not to sub. We're not going to require somebody to do that. Now, we may strongly encourage them to do that, but we would never require somebody to do that if they felt uncomfortable doing that. But really, I want to get to the situation where we're acknowledging and compensating for the fact that they're taking on some significant responsibilities above and beyond what they normally would do.
And because it's a paper and pen model, where's the check and balance?
The check is really a combination of the building principal, payroll, and of course that employee as well, because they'll be signing off on those days when they do that. So the resolution of that question of, did Charlie serve as a substitute on that day, Charlie signing off on that as well as the building principal. So there's our check and balance. And our proposal is to put this in place as quickly as possible. Any other questions?
Seeing none?
Kelly Mullins,
Aye.
Babette Bowling.
Aye.
Ann Vondervellen,
Aye.
Doug Weaver,
Aye.
Troy Scott,
Aye.
Stacy Davis,
Aye.
Rocky Enfield.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Brandon?
I think for that, it's really hard to hear you guys, especially in the back and stuff. Can you guys maybe go into your microphones or something? When you sit back, we can't hear you.
Brandon?
Brad, I believe that Brad is presenting.
Okay, Brad?
Good evening.
Hi, Brad. Hi, Brad. Thanks for
Evening.
being here.
Yes, thank you. The enclosed agreements that you have there have been signed by our sending schools, superintendents, and their board members. And we bring this to you this evening for your approval.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion from the board?
This is just in case anybody doesn't know. Did Brandon give you an explanation to this is just agreements that we do
Just the
every,
agreement that we have
yeah, we
every
do
year.
this every year with every school that attends the Elkhart Career Center.
That's
So
right.
that's exactly what this is. So for those of you that don't know, to be more specific, we have to do this every year to continue the back and forth pay between the two schools.
And those districts, you want me to tell them are Wago, Freeman, Concord, Edwardsburg, Goshen, Middlebury, Penn, Harris, Madison, School City of Mishawaka, and Waunee.
Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none?
Kelly Mullins.
Aye.
Babette Bowling.
Aye.
Ann Vondervellen,
Aye.
Doug Weaver,
Aye.
Troy Scott,
Aye.
Stacy Davis,
Aye.
Rocky Enfield.
Aye. This meeting is now in recess. We will start the public hearing on the 2022 budget, 2022 capital projects plan, and 2022 bus replacement plan.
Can you go full screen?
Well, that's what he's trying to.
Oh, okay, all right, okay, thanks.
Have your water. Have it. Have your water.
All right, so, tonight, is our hearing for our budget, 2022. I work for a superintendent who used to talk about make your presentations brief and magnificent. 8 minutes was his target. I practiced a couple times. It's gonna be at least 12 minutes, even if I speak quickly. But, we'll try to get through this as quick as we can. As the board has heard in the work session, the state really sets the format of how we do this. And the Department of Local Government Finance is the state's entity that reviews all government unit budgets, all schools, all cities and towns. They ultimately deliver the budget order and set the final tax rate. You can see the funds here that we're going to talk about this evening. These are the ones that we're required to advertise publicly. I'm going to start with the education fund. That's by far our largest fund. It has no local property tax rate. It's primarily funded from state tuition support. You can see the components of the state tuition. Basic grant, there's a foundation funding amount per student, and then other pieces there. In addition to that, the state provides summer school reimbursement. There's a line in the state budget that covers at least a portion of each school's summer school programs. And we also receive facility rental dollars and interest. In terms of funding for the education fund, the state works on a fiscal year cycle, July to June. The school district budgets on a calendar year basis. As I mentioned, there's a foundation amount. You can see that it went up for this coming year. And for the first time since I've been here, the complexity index actually went up as well. In 2020, it was roughly $890. Last year, it dipped to $816. And so in that piece of the funding, they were taking dollars away from us for 2021. But it's actually up for this year. The expenses that are in the education fund, what's presented to the board in their materials was at a program and object level. The federal requirements require us to report by building, so they can look at compare building to building. This year there was a number of accounting changes required by the Department of Education. We always conservatively ask for maximum spending because the Department of Local Government Finance will reduce our budget by the time we're working. A couple things that have changed is we had a much larger summer school program in 2021 to try to address learning loss that occurred during the COVID year. That will continue into the next budget year. We're also shifting some dollars in terms of what we're spending for security. We're having difficulty getting off-duty officers, and so we've shifted to Elkhart employees who are security officers that work for Dana. And then also Pride Academy, we took that program in-house. We've previously been spending dollars with an outside contract to deliver services. Here's the items that are in the education fund: salary and wages. And you can see the groups that fall in that: teachers, building administrators, and classroom paraprofessionals. You can see the benefits that go with that, and then curricular supplies also fall in education. And graphically, this just gives you an idea of these areas are salary, wages, and benefits. They're north of 90% of the education fund budget. Moving to the operations fund, it is expenses that are non-instructional, directly related, and the state combined funds that have previously been separate. You can see those listed there, as well as select accounts from the general fund that the state considers overhead, which includes the school board, the superintendent's office, the business office, and more. So another
thing about the operations fund is that the full tax cap impact, the loss of revenue, falls on the operations fund. Also, pension debt neutrality also must come, so it's a net tax impact. There are two separate revenue streams for the operations fund. For the funds that have previously been separate, capital projects, transportation, and bus replacement, those have historically been locally funded and still are. Primary source is property taxes. We also get some excise, commercial excise, and financial institution tax related to that. That tax rate is impacted by the state growth quotient. And for the former general fund accounts, they have a separate revenue stream. The state requires us to receive the state basic grant, the tuition support, into the education fund, and then transfer the like amount of what the expenses are in the operations fund. We were only a few months into that new operating model when the state decided that that threshold shouldn't be more than 15% in terms of transfers. Budget 2022, that is just north of 13% for us, so we're well under the state threshold. Influences on the revenue for the operations fund. As I mentioned previously, property tax caps, they've been running in the range of 3.6 to 3.9 million. The DLGF provided an estimate for 2022 at just under 3.9 million. Pension debt neutrality in the property taxes has been about 2.5 million a year. The positive factor is the growth quotient. For 2022, it's 4.3%. That's up slightly. However, we expect the trend over the next 6 years to be down because 2020 is a down year and it will come into the 6-year average. So it will take 6 more years for that to roll off.
I'm sorry, could you say, what is DLGF? I know I should know that.
Department of Local Government Finance.
Okay, thank you.
That's the government agency.
Gotcha.
Okay, capital projects, the proposed budget is just over 16 million. The largest pieces are utilities, the tech budget, professional services. There's also a general improvement line for every building that allows building services to go in and repair, like strip hazard if a sidewalk is a problem, or repair bathrooms, that type of thing. And then there's some limited large projects included as well. Moving on, transportation operations fund. The advertised budget's up a little over 10%. It works in conjunction, has worked in conjunction with the referendum operating funds, and will be in 22 as we consume some of the cash balance that's there for the referendum operating fund. The proposed budget is just over 9 million, and the fuel piece is roughly 10%. Bus replacement. This fund, previously, the only activity that would happen in this fund is you buy big yellow buses. And for 2022, the schedule reflects purchase of 13 buses with 4 different types of buses. Conventional bus, a little longer, 84-passenger bus, buses with wheelchair lifts, special ed oriented, and then we have one high altitude or altitude related bus that's set for our Colorado trips. What you can see on our website, the state requires us to just show 5 years of the plan. We do build a full replacement plan. It takes 13 years to replace all the buses that are fleet. Then the last piece of the operations fund is various formerly general fund accounts. The biggest piece, if you look down here, is custodial. So all of the salary and wages for custodial as well as custodial supplies fall in the operations fund. To just give you a sense of how big that is, here's a breakdown. And then graphically, you can see the capital projects is the largest piece of the operations fund. Referendum operating fund. The 2014 referendum operating fund has expired, so there will be no tax rate in 2022. Budgeted items remain the same that we've used the last couple of years. Debt service funds, we have 3 funds, and the largest of which is debt service. That is where the bonds to latest project, the Capstone Campus Improvement Project. And then the last two debt funds are pension debt. You can see when that pays off, 2027. That amount floats a little bit each year. This year it's $20,000 higher for 22. Same with referendum debt. That was up $1,000 at a little bit longer payoff period. And then just for our patrons, just to give a sense of how Elkhart's been performing in terms of tax rate, you can see that there's been a gradual shrink in the tax rate overall, as well as red there, just the debt rate alone across those three funds has also been shrinking. And finally, the rainy day fund. We are requesting roughly one payroll cycle, a little over $3 million. Doesn't mean we're going to use it. Hopefully the bad unexpected doesn't happen, but it allows us flexibility and the ability to respond quickly. And we do this each year. We ask for an appropriation authority for rainy day fund. And then the final slide, I know it's very difficult to see. School districts are no longer required to advertise in the newspaper. We have to advertise on the state's website. So this is Form 3, the notice to taxpayers. It's on the Gateway website. First column is a description of the funds, the amounts that we're asking for, estimated tax revenues, and then this column right here is the current year tax levy, which when the Department of Local Government Finance works our budget, I expect that it will look very similar to 2021. And so that very quickly are my comments for the hearing. And Mr. President, we can take any questions at this point. And if there are no questions, we will close the hearing and return to regular session.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
What percentage is the rainy day fund of the budget? I know it's one pay cycle.
So it's $3 million out of 140, whatever.
147.
Read, it's so small.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can do the math. Thank you.
Almost 2%. Ann, any questions? Any other questions from the board?
Thank you.
The budget hearing is closed. We will now continue with the rest of our meeting. So this is the time for the comment portion from the audience. You'll be called up. Remember, you have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you. Philip Crawford.
Philip Crawford, Life Ocean area. My relation to the school is I have friends that have kids in the school, and I'm a concerned member with Purple Parents Organization Indiana. And I'm here because concern I have all over the state, really in schools in Elkhart County, is the mask mandate and social distancing. And I'll be honest with you, parents are not happy about it. They are fed up with it. And I know we've heard a little bit about it already this evening, but I would like to offer a solution. And speak to that a little bit because we've said it over and over again, maybe without realizing it, but parents are the legal guardians of their kids. I believe they have the right to make that choice for themselves without the strong arm of our governor, president, legislators, and our school board. I'll be frank with you. Because, you know, the school board did not give birth to that kid. The governor did not, he does not pay for our kids. He does not raise our kids. He does not have the final say. I don't care who he is. He does not get to make these kind of calls. Because God has ordained the family in divine order, and I believe the parents have the right to say so. And if you're against that, and anyone else against that, I'm afraid you're wrong. And I'm afraid God is very upset with that, and parents, and as concerned citizens, we're very upset with that. So my suggestion is, leave it to the parents. This is not an attack on anyone who chooses to wear a mask. This is not attack on someone who doesn't choose to wear a mask. But, you know, we need to have that choice for ourselves. The parents need to make that call. I'm going to stand very strongly on that. And I would encourage the board to really consider that. Because if you don't, here's what we're going to end up with. We're going to end up with kids being pulled out of school left and right. It's happening, believe it or not, in the multitude. There is a lot of kids being pulled out of school right now because of this stuff. You're going to have kids pulled out of school. You're going to have parents come to school board meetings in droves, and they're going to come and ring you out, unfortunately. We don't want that to happen. So I'd say while you're ahead, make the right decision for the parents. Now, this is not an attack on the school board because I know our country's all up in the air right now with all kinds of mandates and silly nonsense. But quite frankly, we need to make decisions for ourselves and be we the people, be the Americans. So guys, while you're ahead, make the right decisions before it is too late. And I'll say with that, God bless you, God bless America, and God bless we the people.
Judy Johnston.
Hi, I'm Judy Johnston. I live at 1817 Woodland Drive in Elkhart. I have grandchildren who attend the school and was a teacher in the system for 30 years. The first two items I'm going to talk about are the math studies that were done. I myself, from studies that I have read, believe that masks are ineffective. I believe they are harmful, in fact, not just ineffective, but harmful. Our kids breathe those germs. It cuts down on their oxygen supply, weakens their immune systems. So I don't think it's neutral at all. I think it's harmful. I would like to see our kids being able not to wear masks. One of the studies that I'd like to talk about is in the Annals of Internal Medicine of 2021. The title of that is The Effectiveness of Adding a Mask Recommendation to Other Public Health Measures to Prevent SARS-CoV-2 Infection in Danish Mask Wearers, a randomized controlled study. So this was done in Denmark, April 2020. Total of 3,030 participants were randomly assigned, recommended to wear masks, and 2,994 were assigned to a control. 4,862 completed the study. The difference was a minus 0.3 percentage point. The difference observed was not statistically significant. In other words, in this large study of close to 5,000 people, showing no statistically significant benefit for wearing a mask to stop the spread of COVID. This cannot be ignored. You can no longer claim ignorance of the fact, and I would like to free our children today and not have them be masked. There are multiple studies like this out here. This is another one, COVID update agenda. The title is the preliminary findings of a randomized trial of non-pharmaceutical interventions to prevent influenza transmission in households. Now, we all need to remember here that influenza is a virus. Secondary attack ratios of laboratory-confirmed influenza and clinical influenza in the context of 122 analyzed households. What this shows that in households that in the control group, the ratio was a 0.04. In those households that had face masks on, it came back at a 0.08.
You're 3 minutes.
And hand hygiene, 0.04. So this case also proves that masks are not effective. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, Mark.
Good evening, Carrie Mullet, 200 Junior Achievement Drive, President Elkhart Teachers
Association. I'm here tonight on a little different topic than what I normally speak upon. As I've stated on many occasions, I've been a proud employee at Elkhart Community Schools for over 2 decades. Not only am I one of our district's most loyal and devoted teachers, I tend to be one of your greatest cheerleaders. And as you also know, I generally try to share positivity whenever possible. Tonight, though, I find myself on the verge of tears. A lot of it is exhaustion. A lot of it is this very amazing crowd behind me that also has such passion for our schools. Unfortunately, tonight I have little to no positivity to share. My bucket is pretty empty, and I stand before you with kind of a heavy heart. As president of the Teachers Association, a member of our negotiations team, I'm very frustrated by the lack of progress in bargaining a new teacher contract with this district. I want to say before I go any further, I have great respect, not only for you, but everyone on the administrative team. They're awesome. You know how much I enjoy each and every one of them as an individual. But nonetheless, the state legislature intentionally directed additional new money to be allocated for the purpose of teacher salary increases, and so far, we've been unable to make adequate progress in creating satisfactory terms. The current offer from the administrative team is not acceptable, and in all honesty, it appears on the surface that they're unwilling or unable to recognize the dire situation that we are currently in. We are quickly running out of time to reach an agreement, and I'm very concerned that we'll not be able to do so before the November deadline. As I've been providing updates to ECA members about our negotiations, they're starting to feel quite discouraged as well. Some of them joined us here tonight. Some are probably home in bed already because they're equally exhausted. I actually said last night, I'm so tired my eyelids feel tired, like it's that kind of tired. Many of our staff members who returned to our school buildings this fall are barely hanging on, and although they don't want to leave Elkhart School, they feel that there's really no choice and some substantial financial relief is not provided. As of this week, Human Resources is reporting there's 73 regular classroom positions open. We have over 20 special ed vacancies. Our neighboring districts do not find themselves in this situation. And one of our fantastic high school teachers at the building next door created a table I will leave with you to kind of see what I'm referring to. Other neighboring districts have barely any vacancies at all. To say that we can't afford to lose another person is an understatement. And I certainly don't think it's wise for either of our sides to kind of dilly-dally through the negotiation process. That's what it feels like right now. In closing, once again, you know how much I respect and admire all of you, everyone in this room. So I hope that you will encourage the team to make progress this week. Thank you.
Bob Barnes?
Hey, my name's Bob Barnes. I live at 205 Whitmer Avenue, Elkhart, Indiana. I'm here as a concerned citizen for the students and the faculty of Elkhart Community Schools. I'm not gonna go, I got 3 studies that I've read about these mask mandates. I can, go through them. They're all peer reviewed. One's from the Journal of, Annals of Internal Medicine, face mask and hygiene that prevent, influenza transmission in households. I'm gonna cut to the chase. These masks don't work. We're being fed a lie. I think if you follow the money on these mask mandates, the vaccine mandates, and the corporations that are funding all this, this is where we're going. Okay. Overall, the intervention of face masks and hand hygiene to prevent virus transmission did not lead to statistically significant reductions in transmission. Mandating all students and teachers to wear masks in light of these findings put you all at odds with scientific literature and could be considered neglectful. That's all for this. I can leave this if you guys want. We have another one here on surgical mask prevent influenza transmission in households and this was a cluster randomized trial. This was done in Japan. They did 16.2% of people wore masks, 15.8% of the people that they was in the study did not wear masks. There was no statistically significant study done that confirmed anything that the study did, okay? So claiming masks work to effectively stop the transmission of respiratory viruses is simply not supported by the scientific literature, and ignoring this information is dangerous. I have another one here from the American Journal of Infection Control. Use of surgical masks to reduce the incidence of the common cold among healthcare workers. This one was one that was in Japan. This other one here was from France. The common cold is an upper respiratory virus. This peer-reviewed hospital study demonstrated wearing masks did not prevent the spread of respiratory viruses compared to not wearing a mask. Why are we ignoring this information? I believe this is reprehensible, and policymakers and the school corporation could be held accountable or be liable for this policy. I'm just going to say this. I had COVID. I got the antibodies. I didn't pass it on to my wife. I didn't pass it on to anybody. We're going to have to deal with this. So making our kids wear masks, making strangers wear masks. Okay. I guess I'm done.
Thank you, Bob.
But
Thank you.
You guys want this?
Thank you. Yeah, you can lay it there.
Sarah Howard?
My name is Sarah Howard. I live at Lake County 3. My husband and I are proud parents of a Woodland Rapids first grader. So please bear with me because it's my first time speaking. But tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about the notice that families got who utilized the kids care site at Mary Daly Elementary School. On October 8th, we were given a letter, a very generic letter, stating that the kids care site was going to be closing effective 10/19. So an 11-day notice with no alternatives given, with no other information in the letter other than we're closing. So I called the principal of the school and asked him if he was aware of this, because it's obviously going to affect children at Woodland and Mary Daly. And asked for his advice. Couldn't give me the answers that I wanted. He said on his end he was looking for some alternatives as well for his family. So I emailed the leadership of the Boys and Girls Club, as well as the superintendent of Elkhart Community Schools, the director of student services for Elkhart Community Schools, the principal of my daughter's school. And I really didn't get any response other than from the vice president of the Boys and Girls Club. He said that he knows that this is not in the best interest of families, and that was basically it. They said that they cannot relocate the displaced children, which are upwards of 20, from 2 Title I schools, by the way, because their plan was to perhaps relocate them to Pinewood, but Elkhart Community Schools Transportation cannot accommodate that request. So she was shifting the blame, in my opinion, to Elkhart Community Schools. And when I asked who was involved in the decision making, I was not given an answer. So I don't know who is aware of this decision. I don't know if the school board is aware of it. I don't know that the school district played a part in it. And so I offered suggestions. Why are they closing a site that has operated the same way since the beginning of the school year, operated the same way with the same staff last school year? Now all of a sudden staffing is a problem. Now all of a sudden transportation is a problem. Because they want to relocate that staff to Pinewood School. So effectively what they're saying is that the students who are going to be displaced from Mary Daly and Woodland before and after school don't matter. they don't matter because they have no other options for before and after school. And now families have to scramble with, now at this point, less than 11-day notice to make other arrangements. We all know that that's going to impact attendance at the school, especially for the children. Okay, well, I guess I will close it just by saying that our State School Board considers this, especially if you aren't aware. I know that there's a contract for Boys and Girls Club to provide kids care, and I'd like to know what the terms of that contract are. But I can't imagine that they're allowed to close the site with 11-day notice and not get any kind of approval or have family involvement in that decision.
Thank you.
So, thank you. I'm sorry, can I know when we might expect to hear follow-up on that? I know it can't be tonight, but is there a process for any feedback on something like that?
You can ask after the meeting. There is no feedback during the meeting.
Yes, I understand that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Megan Bachman?
Megan Bachman, 1518 Springbrook Drive, Elkhart, a board member of ECS Innovation Center. Good evening. My name is Megan Bachman, and together with Tanya Lucas, we are currently serving as interim CEOs at ECS Innovation Center. Since ECS inception, our focus has been on making learning fun, engaging, and impactful through hands-on activities, with our laser focus on the STEM area. We are here at ECS to partner with schools for all their STEM needs. 5 years ago, the community embarked on a rather ambitious campaign to raise nearly $7 million to renovate the iconic Fair building as the location for what is now ECS Innovation Center. Just last week, Junior Achievement held their groundbreaking event at ECS to celebrate their new Biz Town, an incredible state-of-the-art simulated city that becomes a hands-on learning lab for students to become adults for a day. It is scheduled to open to the public in the spring of 2022. So you can imagine our shock when it was brought to our attention that the recent Salem Leadership Academy charter application highlighted ECS as a possible location for their charter school. On behalf of the Board of Directors at ECS, I've come here tonight to set the record straight. ECS is not and will not ever be a charter school. Our goal and focus will always be to provide state-of-the-art STEM support, experiences, and opportunities for kids, families, and all schools throughout our community and beyond. From professional development to STEM kits and robotics, and most recently, our hugely popular Lab in a Bag. We are here to serve the community as a resource for all your STEM needs. Thank you to each one of you, and thank you to Elkhart Community Schools for being a great partner. We appreciate the opportunity to serve as your STEM resource for both your students and teachers.
Trustee Hess Newton?
Kelly, can I have that paper towel behind you? I'm just gonna wipe this down since everybody's come up here and touched it. I'm a little worried about germs.
Okay, so my name is Trustee Hess Newton. I'm from Elkhart, Indiana. I have one kid still in Elkhart schools. I have some interesting statistics from the CDC website. Flu deaths in children have been nationally reported since 2004. During the 2009 H1N1 pandemic, From April 2009 to September 2010, 358 H1N1 deaths in children ages 5 to 18 were reported to the CDC. In 17 months, an average of 21 deaths per month. From January 4th, 2020 to September 18th of 2021, 374 COVID deaths in children ages 5 to 18 were reported. That's 21 months with an average of 18 deaths per month. Again, 2009 to 2010, H1N1 average deaths in kids, 21. 2020 to 2021, COVID average deaths in kids per month, 18. Where were masks for H1N1? Why weren't we quarantining and mandating vaccines for H1N1? Why weren't we in an uproar then? And why weren't our board members mandating our kids wear masks back then? Because the government wasn't telling you to do so. So masks aren't about health, they are about government control. I'm sorry to say this, but every single school, including ours, that is mandating masks is rolling out big government agenda. Will you continue to roll out government mandates when they come, like vaccine mandates? Just there. Wait, there's more. Here is another study from PubMed.org. A cluster randomized trial of cloth masks compared to medical masks in health care workers. The aim of this study was to compare, and I have the study here if you want it, the efficacy of cloth masks to medical masks in healthcare workers. This study was done in 1,607 healthcare workers wearing masks all day, shows the rate of all infection outcomes were highest in those wearing cloth masks. This study is the first controlled test of cloth masks, and the results caution against use of cloth masks. Moisture retention, reuse of cloth masks, and or filtration may result in increased risk of all types of infections. To continue the Elkhart School's mask mandate in light of this high quality of real science would be unconscionable and may make the school system liable. It's time to end the mandate. Thank you.
Rogan Russell?
Good evening, my name is Rogan Russell, Elkhart, Indiana. I'm a current freshman in high school. I'm here to talk from a student's perspective. Schools within our district are all becoming alike in one main way. That thing is the loss of our First Amendment. It seems as though some of you board members have forgotten what this is, so I shall read it to you now. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right for people to peacefully assemble. If you still can't understand this, I don't know what to tell you. It seems as though us citizens, or in this case, students, are losing our rights each and every day. First the mask, and now a possible vaccine requirement. Focus on the topic of mask first. According to utoledo.edu, the full size of a surgical mask is 300 nanometers, while according to medicalnews.net, the size of a single COVID-19 molecule is about 100 nanometers. Meaning the mask isn't as effective as you guys thought it was. But if people still don't want to believe the real science is back, I have an idea to propose for you. If this mask works as well as you guys thought it was, then you should be fine regardless if I wear mine or not. Now to my second point, the vaccine. If our school's put in a clinic, I guarantee if I went for a vaccine, I would need no signed paper or they would not make a phone call home. But yet, if I have a headache, I'm unable to get Tylenol or aspirin without these things. So honestly, what's the difference? I don't care if you get your vaccine or not, but I will not be getting mine. I know a lot of people, friends or acquaintances that have gotten the vaccine for the sole purpose of not having to wear a mask, but yet they are forced to each and every day. I don't wear my mask over my nose 99% of the time, and I'm just fine. But yet there's a teacher here and there that tell me to pull that up, and that's depending on the day. But yet the kid behind me will have his mask off or under his chin, and that teacher says nothing. mask each and every day, not wear the mask when it's most needed. I won't name names, but some of you go to gatherings and events without your mask. So why is it fair that you put me in a mask for 8 hours a day? Not wait too late to change. You step and have a voice and impact on how the school and other schools respond. So make a change and do better.
Larissa?
Oh, I did. And at least I didn't have to. Pick up opportunity better. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Larissa O'Malley. I teach American Sign Language at the high school, and according to payroll, I am a long-term sub. A few weeks ago, myself, my boyfriend, and our infant foster child all contracted COVID-19. We were safe. We stayed isolated to reduce our risk of spreading the virus, and I missed 8 days of school. Subsequently, I missed 8 days of pay. Last year, I had the opportunity to teach from home, virtually, as needed while quarantining to stop the spread and stop the virus. This year, I was not given such an option, and when asked, I was told it would not be offered. While I was at home sick and then recovering from COVID, I still lesson planned. I still graded. I still communicated daily with my students, as well as the staff covering my classes via email. I even video chatted groups with my students to help with their vocab. My time quarantining looked very similar to what I did last year. The only difference is I wasn't paid. A normal paycheck for me hovers right above $1,000 for 2 weeks worth of work. My budget is tight in a normal month. This month just became even worse. On October 1st, my take-home pay was $350. For reference, my rent is $765. My struggles financially have just begun. But if you think my story is sad, the sad part is I'm not the only one. There are so many amazing long-term subs filling these open positions around our district, in and out of our school buildings every single day, and yet we are not covered if we get sick. We don't have days of paid quarantine we can use, and if we're not in front of children, we do not get paid. In my opinion, this system encourages dishonesty. If I weren't who I am, and I knew having COVID meant being home without pay, I might have lied and said, oh, just allergies, pushed through and continued the spread in our school community. But I do want to end this virus. I do want to do my part to stop the spread. I just don't want to have to struggle while I do it. So I stand in front of you tonight, asking you to consider reinstating the COVID days for long-term subs, and further asking you to consider paying those of us who have already lost time and pay from COVID so far this school year. The pandemic is not over, and our policies should reflect that. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Candace Russell?
Good evening, Candace Russell, Elkhart. Some Americans are being told that they have to make a choice between putting food on the table or giving up their freedom of choice and take this vaccination. Whether you believe in this or not, you need to understand the scenario goes far beyond hope. We, the American people, have fought these freedoms for over 250 years, and many Americans gave the ultimate sacrifice to do just that. You passed two of those walking in this building. We have made allies around the world to promote freedom and democracy. We help other countries even fight to gain theirs. Take a look at Afghanistan, the last 18 months when we lost no soldiers before this administration took over our military's departure plan. We sacrificed 13 just that day. You may not think being forced to mask or vaccinate is a big deal, but when we start to see mandate after mandate and freedom after freedom being taken away, it becomes a very big deal. When things are being taken away, we are faced with something known as shifting baseline syndrome. This changes our ideas of a new and acceptable normal, and not long until we forget about what it was like to have the freedom, and our kids and future grandkids will have even less and less. And they won't have the opportunities that you or I or our grandparents and parents once had. If you continue to comply with government overreach and we do not take a stand, like the great Rosa Parks once did, We will become a country controlled by government in every way, shape, or form. This leaves our fallen soldiers losing their lives a great disrespect. Blood was shed, limbs were lost, disease was stricken, mentally unstable vets no longer feel like the heroes they truly are. So whether you stand for mask or vaccination, I personally will stand for your freedom of choice and continue to fight for these mandates to end. I will respect our heroes, past, present, and future. I pray you will do the same. And in closing, be a Rosa Parks. Stand up, say no for once to our government mandates, and abide by your constitutional rights, your Declaration of Independence, our Bill of Rights, and the very oath you swore to uphold the seat you are sitting in. By the people who represent we the people. God bless you, and thank you for your time. Here is a copy of every single thing you signed as an oath to take that seat.
Pamela Duff.
Good evening, Board. My name is Pamela Duff. I teach at Elkhart High School. I have experience on boards, so I understand you must make very difficult and sometimes unpopular decisions. I commend you on how you handled the last school year. I am here today to address COVID sick days for staff for this current school year. Last year, a precedent was set by covering COVID-related sick days for staff. We are still in a pandemic. We all still have a responsibility to keep everyone as safe as possible, especially while the pandemic is still getting people sick and people are still being hospitalized with COVID. I am here to respectfully and strongly request that this board and this district cover COVID-positive related sick days. I ask you, how are teachers who contract COVID this year any different from those who contracted it last year? We deserve the same respect and benefits that COVID-positive teachers got last year. I understand guidelines regarding vaccinated close contacts is different. However, the virus is still being transmitted regardless of vaccination status. COVID-positive students and staff still need to stay home if they are sick. I do thank you for putting the mask mandate in place after school started. However, it was too late for me and many others. As a result, as of today, per your dashboard on the district website, 480 students and 99 staff members have contracted COVID this school year alone, with 1,767 close contacts. After spending the last year and a half doing everything the CDC and the state of Indiana recommended, and more, to prevent contracting COVID, I had COVID symptoms by September 5th. I have not been able to teach a full day of classes yet. I deserve the same respect and consideration as the teachers who got COVID last year. People please do the right thing. Cover COVID-related sick days for all of us. I will end with one question. Why are people who contracted COVID during the last school year more respected and more important than those of us who stayed in Elkhart and contracted COVID this year? Thank you.
Samantha Shirk.
Hello, my name is Samantha Shirk from Elkhart. I study at Elkhart Community Schools.
Can't hear you.
The mic. Yeah.
Average number of times.
Haven't started.
I don't really usually. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now? Yes. My name is Samantha Sherk, Elkhart, my son's in Elkhart Community Schools. I had a couple things here that I want to go through. The reason why I'm here on behalf of my son. I have a kid that used to enjoy coming to school, loved it, never had to fight him to get up, go to school. And now with this mask mandate, he begs me not to go to school. He asked me, do I have to do this? I don't want to wear this mask all day. I said, yeah, but that's all we've got right now. And so I'm here on behalf of him. And I got a couple studies here to show that the masks don't work. I don't know why the science is being denied or ignored, but it's out there. It's out there. He actually used one of the studies I was going to use about how the virus is smaller than the mask material itself, so it goes right through. Also, I have a study, I've heard so many arguments, well, surgeons wear them, these should be okay. Well, I have a story here that a doctor, a surgeon wrote. He's done 10,000 surgeries, and he's a former editor of a medical journal, so I think he's got some knowledge on this subject. And he said the premise that surgeons wearing masks serves as evidence that masks must work to reverse viral transmission is a logical fallacy that I would classify as an argument of false equivalence for comparing apples to oranges. The COVID-19 pandemic is about viral transmission. Surgical and cloth masks do nothing to prevent viral transmission. We should all realize by now that face masks have never been shown to prevent or protect against viral transmission, which is exactly why they have never been recommended for using during seasonal flu outbreaks, epidemics, or previous pandemics. And I'm skipping through some of this because I know that I have a little bit of time. The environment in which surgeons wear masks minimizes first effect surgical masks have on their wearers. Unlike the public wearing masks in the community, surgeons work in sterile surgical suites equipped with heavy-duty air exchange systems that maintain positive pressures, exchange and filter the room air at a very high level, and increase the oxygen content on the room air. The conditions limit the negative effects of masks on the surgeon and operating room staff. And yet, despite these extreme climate control conditions, clinical studies demonstrate the negative effects, lowering of arterial oxygen and carbon dioxide rebreathing of surgical masks on surgeons' physiology and performance. Surgeons and operating room personnel are well-trained, experienced, and meticulous about maintaining sterility. We only wear fresh, sterile masks. We don the mask in a sterile fashion. We wear the mask for short periods of time and change it out at the first signs of the excessive moisture buildup that we know degrades mask effectiveness and increases their negative effects. Surgeons never reuse surgical masks, nor do we ever wear cloth masks. Okay. I just want to add this. I have to say this. Ignoring these scientific facts of all these studies that everybody's presenting and making these policies which affect our children is careless. Please, I'm begging you, stop doing this to our children. It's not fair. I see my kid going down psychologically. Physically, who knows? Long-term side effects of all of this. Thank you.
Melissa Gross.
Good evening. I am Melissa Gross. I live at 60894 County Road 19 in Goshen. I was hired here in 2001 to be a language arts teacher at Peter Moran Middle School. I taught there for 16 years. I've now worked at School Without Walls as their English teacher for the last 5 years. But before that, I was a kid who grew up in Elkhart. And my dad owned a local business. And so when I was a kid and there was a staff shortage at his business, I was the one who got tasked to go in and fill in for what needed to be done. My sister was older, but she would kick up with too much of a fuss. And so it was left to me. One Saturday morning, the phone rang early, and it was my dad telling me I needed to come in and work in the kitchen. I grabbed the jeans that I had worn to school the previous day and a clean t-shirt and got my mom to drive me to work. At dinner that night, my dad chewed me out for my sloppy appearance. He also chewed out my sister for her bad attitude. The lessons we learned were that appearance is important and it matters how we treat people. A friend of mine who teaches at the freshman division recently tested positive for COVID, along with his wife and his daughter. He was admitted to the hospital, and he's still there. He has been intubated, and his struggle is extremely real. When his wife was trying to deal with everything that was related to this, in addition to her being extremely ill, she appealed to me because she knows that I sit on the sick bank leave committee and various other committees, and she was hoping that I would help her out. And so, I did. I appealed to Lisa Ernsberger and Julie Crane to get them the help that they needed, because in addition to her husband being in the hospital and herself being sick, this process that we have for people borrowing from our sick leave bank is extremely cumbersome. Honestly, I'm totally dumbfounded that we don't have a policy of beneficence in this situation. When people are experiencing one of the worst times in their lives, that's when they need the most support. We worked hard to implement trauma-informed care strategies with our students. Why aren't we taking the same degree of consideration with our staff? Not doing so makes our corporation appear callous and uncaring. And we know appearance is important and how we treat people matters. We're living in unprecedented times. Staff shortages have all of us stretched to the limit and doing whatever is necessary to keep this corporation up and running. The people at the state level have suggested. Okay, thank you.
Mark Lindholm.
Trying to feel like turn it to which topic is the one you're talking about.
You get 3 minutes, mask mandate, that's it.
Yep, no, the other one was a different topic.
Doesn't matter.
Mask mandate.
3 minutes, that's it.
Are there other comments at the end about other topics?
No, you get 3 minutes,
Per
that's
person?
it. Per person.
One, okay, thank you. So I will speak about mask mandate if that's on the line. So I'm Dr. Mark Lindholm. I live in Elkhart, Indiana. I have 4 students who have either graduated from Elkhart Community Schools or are current students. So I have yet another study I could go over, but I think it's a little redundant to do that. It's a separate study from the other ones that have been reviewed. This one also looks at influenza transmission, as somebody very wisely said, that's relevant to COVID because the virus. This one also showed that influenza transmission was not reduced by the wearing of masks. As people have said in the past, other presenters, ignoring this high-quality scientific data is very neglectful. So, last session, last meeting, I presented much of the same data. I emailed it to the board members as well as handed it to Mr. Enfield. I'm just curious if you even read it. And I'm also curious if there's going to be a vote on this topic soon of making masks optional. You know, obviously there's grave concern by parents. These are the custodians of these minors that we placed in your trust during the day. And we deserve to have a vote on this topic. It is something that cannot continue to be ignored. Thank you.
Grace Shevick.
Well, I'm gonna be the black sheep here, I have a different message. I'm Grace Shevick, and, I teach over at Elkhart Academy. This is my first teaching job. I started when I was in my 50s. I've gonna work there a couple of years. I've been there over 25. This mask nonsense. The man who says parents should have control. I would like to give you the name of the mother that called me today that I took the kid's face in, and I was, going against her because she had control and she gave him the face in. The mask. I'm teaching in a 10 by 7 classroom. Today I had 11 students and a teaching assistant. There's no room. I wish we could wear masks even if there wasn't a pandemic.
You're right.
Everybody's got a lot of data. Oh my God, there was data crazy, but we all know we can screw that data, me included. The other thing with parents and your children, I have raised two exceptionally successful children. And what I've learned is kids learn what they live. If you're complaining about these crazy masks, your kids are going to realize that too. So, come over to my classroom. Those of you that haven't been there, come on over. But wear a mask. You're going to need them. Thanks.
Justin Sellers.
I know for my topic, I put many, but I'll do the teacher pay thing.
Could you give us your name first?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Justin Sellers, I teach at Elkhart Academy.
Thank you.
I'm a second-year teacher. And so, one thing I want us to think about, the big question here is, what are we gonna do about the teacher pay? I make $37,650 a year. Doesn't sound bad, all right? After taxes, and after I put a very small amount into a retirement fund, I make about $1,000 every 2 weeks, $500 every week. I often talk with my students about the jobs that they have, the work that they do, fast food jobs, maybe a factory job here. And I almost become discouraged when they start telling me they're making more than what I do weekly. I'm a professional, right? Like, how do we change this? It's the big question. Now, imagine tomorrow you wake up and the teachers at Elkhart Community Schools decided they were done. Whoa. I could make more at a factory. I could make more in a setting that's not professional, or maybe I could find a professional job outside of education and make more. What are we going to do? Please. This is urgent. 73 positions open. I don't know what you can do. I know the referendum failed. I know. I understand. I get it. I've heard it. But you got to find some money. If it takes all you going down to the State House, I'll go with you. I don't care. We got to find a way. Please keep us updated. This is the first one I've ever been to board meeting. And we just want to know if change is coming. We want to see what's going to happen. So that's all I got to say.
Thanks, Justin.
Do we have anything from the superintendent and staff?
for myself, I would just like to say that, for those that attended the conference, it was encouraging, especially this morning, to hear a national speaker who was speaking on the power of pathways and the things that we're doing in terms of the merged high school and the work that we're doing, the things that we're doing in trying to make sure that no child is marginalized, that we're trying to be meeting the needs of all of our students. As that speaker spoke, I was kind of like, we're doing that. We're kind of there. We've got work to do there, but there were lots and lots of things that during that speech this morning from that superintendent in Illinois that made me incredibly proud of the things that we're doing here and the things that have been undertaken as part of the merger and all of the work that everybody's doing. So I just want to affirm that many of the things that we heard today, and as I sat through other sessions, were affirming a lot of the things that we're doing. And so that work is good. It was kind of verified today by the things I was hearing today and yesterday. And when we had dinner with the architect who works on many of our products, he said to us that if he travels around the state, that the things that are happening in Elkhart and the way that we approach building projects, the way we've approached education, the way that we're doing the things that we're doing, again, are different and top tier compared to what he's seeing in many other places around the state with people that he works with. So that, again, was very affirming, and for the vision of what had been in place prior to my arrival here and the things that we continue to work on, it was very good to see and people be complimentary about the things that we're doing here and the things that we're doing for kids. So I just wanted to share that many times over the last few days, there were those affirming moments for the things that we're working on.
Very good. Any comments from the board?
Wait.
You need to speak faster.
Well, I took a breath. I just want to say thank you to everybody that spoke. It takes a tremendous amount of courage to be young, to be a teacher, to speak out for what we know is very true, especially when we see what the surrounding school systems are doing on behalf of their teachers. I know that, you know, there's been questions about funds and different things that we have been able to figure out. I know that, you know, most of you are my dearest friends, and some of you I've learned to, you know, appreciate even more before I didn't do it, and most of you I drive crazy, and I'm sorry, but I still appreciate each of you. But I know that you will come to something. I don't know what we can or can't do as a board, but I know that we believe in you 100%. I want to affirm, too, even if there are some people on the board that do not support what I support, I believe that optional is the choice. I will fight on behalf of making sure that we do not overstep our boundaries, at least myself as a board member, on behalf of what is happening with parents. I don't co-parent with you. I do believe in our superintendent. I do believe in our staff. I do believe that we have our freedom of rights, and I do hope that you continue to push on what you believe in, because I support you and will stand beside each of you and what you're fighting for.
I'll kind of echo those sentiments, but specifically, you know, I think everybody did a great job. 3 minutes is very tough to get up, but I kind of want to single somebody out. Rogan, I think you did an awesome job presenting.
I know, Mom.
I have a son at the freshman academy, and at times I struggle to even get, how was your day? And, you know, more than like 30 seconds from him. So the fact that you were able to do what you did tonight in front of an audience is very impressive. I've got a presentation on Friday at 10. I don't know what you're doing, but, you know, maybe if you... Oh, you got school? Okay. But no, that was a great job. I just want to make sure you are a
Great witness to what our future is.
Yes.
What you've seen tonight is this in this room is the cradle of a democratic republic, and no matter which side of any issue that you're on out there, you know, people coming together, people being able to have their voices heard. That's what we're supposed to be doing. You know, we need to make it work, you know, from this room and go up with that idea. The other thing, I know that we're gonna be in good hands because I seen two young men. One of them's right there. I don't remember your name. Yeah, that's you. And this young fella, Logan and Rogan, okay. And this young gentleman right here. The future of our country is in good hands. And that's a demonstration of that right there.
And for Logan, I just want to point out to people, my husband, I personally have seen Logan publicly. His manners are impeccable. His respect is impeccable. It was a blessing to be able to witness. And my husband walked away and was like, man, that is a great kid. So, yeah.
Thank you, Leah.